Nama Sreshtham Manumapi Shachi Putram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagraja Murupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Moho Radhika Madhavasham Rapto Yasya Prasita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tannatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Yang Pravrajantamanupeta Krityam Dvaipayana Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayatayatara Govinedus Tam Vyasasunam Upayami Gurum Muninam Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading on here, Devahuti and Kardama, the story of Devahuti and Kardama, and the birth of Kapil. So Maitreya continued, the emperor felt abashed, as it were, to hear his exalted virtues and exploits thus extolled, and replied to the sage, who was leading a retired life, as follows. Manu said, the cosmic being, who is Veda personified, evolved you, the Brahmanas, rich in austere penance, learning, and yoga, concentration of the mind, and averse to the pleasures of the senses, from his mouth for the protection or continuance of his own self in the form of the Vedas, and for the protection of the Brahmins, the same thousand-footed being evolved us, the Kshatriyas, from his 1,000 arms. Hence, they speak of the Brahmana race as his heart, and the Kshatriya race as his outer limbs, his arms. That is why the Kshatriya and the Brahmin protect each other as well as their own self, while, as a matter of fact, the Lord himself, who is both the cause and the effect, and yet immutable, protects them through each other. All my doubts have been resolved by your very sight, inasmuch as your holiness has of your own accord lovingly pointed out the duties of a king who is anxious to protect his subjects. It is my good fortune that I have been able to see you, for you cannot be easily perceived by those who have not subdued their mind. And I am all the more fortunate in that I have touched with my head the blessed dust of your feet. Luckily enough, I have been instructed by you in the duties of kings, and thus a great favor has been bestowed upon me. And thank God I have listened with open and eager ears to your charming words. Be graciously pleased to listen, O sage, to the prayer of my humble self, troubled in mind due to affection for my daughter, Devahuti. This daughter of mine, a sister to Priyavrata and Uttanapada, is on the lookout for a match worthy of her in point of age, character, and good qualities, etc. The moment she heard from the sage Narada of your noble character, learning, comely appearance, young age, and other virtues, she fixed her mind upon you. So, this is what I call Yugal Bhajan. So Yugal Bhajan, when a man and a woman, when a woman desires that kind of man, women desire different kinds of men according to their different character. So some women desire a man who is spiritually insightful, who is a spiritual practitioner, someone who inspires her in her spiritual endeavor, whereby their mutual affection and their mutual desire to achieve spiritual perfection, that those things become a source of energy for their individual evolution and development. Be gracious, this daughter of mine, the moment she heard from the sage Narada. So when this kind of woman, so she's looking in Tinder or wherever, most women don't know what they want. But if a woman seeks her own spiritual edification, then she should seek a partner who is also doing the same thing. So, therefore, accept her as your wife, O chief of the Brahmanas, since I offer her with reverence to you, and because she is in every way fit to be your helpmate in the discharge of your household duties. It is not commendable, even on the part of one who is absolutely free from attachment, much less of him who is addicted to the pleasures of the sense, to spurn an object of desire that has come of itself. He who rejects an object offered to him and begs it of a miser loses his widespread reputation, and his pride is humbled by the disrespectful behavior of others. I heard of you, O wise man, that you were prepared to marry. Therefore, accept her hand, which is being offered by me, since you have not taken a vow of perpetual celibacy. So, not taken a vow of perpetual celibacy, but a temporary vow of celibacy. No one should marry without first having mastered brahmacharya. The sage replied, certainly I have a desire to marry, and your daughter too has not yet been allianced to anyone else. Hence our marriage, according to what is known as the Brahma method, the best of all methods, will be quite in the fitness of things. So the Brahma method, that's where the arranged marriage, the standard arranged marriage. Here he's got a footnote. The Brahma form of marriage is that in which a girl is given away, duly adorned according to one's means, to a bridegroom invited for the purpose. It is this form of marriage which is the most prevalent amongst the twice-born classes in the Hindu society today, and is declared in the Shastras as conferring great religious merit on the bride's father. 7 more forms of marriage have been mentioned in our scriptures, but they are all more or less prohibited in the Kali age. Certainly I have a desire to marry, and your daughter too has not been affianced to anyone else. Hence our marriage, according to what is known as the Brahma method, will be quite in the fitness of things. That desire of mine, which has been duly recognized in the procedure laid down in your scriptures uh, for conducting nuptials, may be realized through this daughter of yours. Who would not accept with honor the hand of your daughter, Devahuti, who overshadows, as it were, by her artless splendor, the very luster of her ornaments? The other day, when she was sporting on the top of her royal mansion, following her ball with bewildered eyes, the elegance of her person heightened by the tinkling of ornaments on her feet, Vishwavasu, a Gandharva well known for his comeliness, was stupefied with infatuation to see her and fell down from his aerial car. What wise man would not welcome her, the very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Swayambhuva Manu and sister of Uttanapada, who cannot even be perceived by those that have not adored the gracious feet of the Lord, and who has come of her own accord, seeking my hand. Therefore I shall take to wife this noble girl, on condition that I shall remain with her until she bears in her womb, through me, a ray of the Supreme Spirit. Thereafter, I am thinking of mostly devoting myself to practices like self-control, which do not involve destruction of life and characterize the life of a sannyasi, and which have been directly taught to me by the Lord himself. To me, the highest authority in this behalf is the immortal Lord Sri Hari, the ruler even of all Prajapatis, lords of created beings, from whom this wonderful universe has emanated, in whom it rests, and in whom again it will disappear. Maitreya went on. The sage, O Vidura, the wielder of a fierce bow, said only this much, and became silent, clinging with his mind to the Lord, whose navel is adorned by a lotus. Having countenance, which was graced with a smile, captivated the heart of Devahuti. Having further unmistakably known the mind of the queen, as well as of Devahuti, the emperor most gladly gave away to the sage, who was endowed with hosts of virtues, his daughter, who matched him well. Empress Shatarupa lovingly bestowed on the bride and the bridegroom most valuable presents, suited to the occasion, in the form of jewelry, raiment, and other articles intended for household use. Relieved of all agony, the emperor enclosed within his arms his daughter, who had been bestowed on a suitable person, with a heart agitated with extreme fondness for her. Unable to bear separation from her, he shed tears again and again, and drenched with them his daughter's looks, crying, "My daughter, my darling." Bidding adieu to the great sage and obtaining his leave, the monarch mounted his chariot along with his spouse and drove to his capital, followed by his retinue, and witnessing the beauty of the hermitages of the tranquil-minded seers on both the charming banks of the Saraswati, a river so agreeable to sages. Overjoyed to know of his arrival beforehand, his subjects sallied forth from Brahmavarta to greet their Lord with songs, panegyrics, and instrumental music. The city of Bahirshmati, the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, which was rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because it was here that the hair of Lord Vishnu, manifested in the form of the divine boar, dropped from his body as he shook it. And it was these very hairs that turned into blades of the evergreen kusha grass, also known by the name of barhish, and kashas, another species of grass used for mats and roofs and so on, by means of which the sages got rid of those who interfered with the performance of their sacrifices and worshipped Lord Vishnu through those sacrifices. It was here again that the worshipful Manu spread a seat of kusha and kasha and propitiated the Lord presiding over sacrifices, from whom he had secured a footing in the shape of the terrestrial globe. Having arrived at the city of Bahirshmati, where the Manu resided, he entered his palace there, which drove away the three types of agony. There, in the company of his wife and children, he enjoyed the pleasures of sense that did not interfere with the pursuit of other objects of human aspiration. At daybreak, that is to say, dharma, artha, and moksha. At daybreak every day, celestial musicians, along with their wives, sang in chorus his fair renown. But with a loving heart, he listened to the stories of Sri Hari alone. Although Swayambhuva Manu was a past master in the art of creating objects of sense enjoyment, the latter could not in the least drag him down from his exalted mood, devoted as he was to the Lord and given to contemplation. Consequently, his hours that gradually brought to an end his long life, consisting of a whole manvantara, were not spent in vain, engaged as he ever was in listening to, contemplating on, composing, and narrating the stories of Lord Vishnu. Having transcended the threefold destinies brought about by the preponderance of any one of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, he thus spent the whole of his manvantara, consisting of 71 rounds of the 4 yugas, in pursuits connected with Lord Vasudeva, such as meditation on his divine form, chanting his names and virtues, etc., and worshipping his images, and so on. How can bodily and mental troubles, and those attributable to some divine or human agency, or to other living beings, O Vidura, afflict him who has sought refuge with Lord Hari? I have thus narrated to you the wonderful story of the first king Swayambhuva Manu, who deserved all praise, and who, in reply to the questions asked by certain sages, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general, as well as of the different varnas, grades of society, and ashramas, stages in life, in particular, friendly disposed as he was to all living beings. Now hear of the glory of his daughter, Devahuti. Chapter 23. Maitreya continued. When the parents of Devahuti had left for their capital, that virtuous girl who could easily read the mind of her lord daily attended to his comforts with the same delight as goddess Parvati looks after her consort, Lord Shiva. Forswearing lust, deceit, malice, covetousness, vanity, and forbidden acts of every kind, nay, ever vigilant and active. She won the pleasure of her glorious husband through fidelity, purity of mind and body, reverence, control of the senses, service, and love, as well as by her affable speech, O Vidura. That daughter of Manu, who looked upon her Lord as greater even than Providence, and was fully devoted to him, expected great blessings from him. Nay, having served him for a long time, she had grown weak and emaciated on account of her religious observances. Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was therefore oppressed with a feeling of commiseration for her and spoke to her in accents faltering with love. This is what we read the other day with my rather impromptu translations. So we're doing with this is what really motivated me to read from a book. Kardama said, O daughter of Manu, you have shown great respect to me, and I am pleased today with your most faithful service and supreme devotion. You ungrudgingly wasted your body for my sake in my service. Body which is extremely dear to all living beings and deserves every attention. I therefore confer on you supernatural vision. Thereby see for yourself the divine blessings in the shape of unearthly enjoyments that were secured by me through concentrated application to austere penances, samadhi, and worship of God, and through devotion to my own duty, blessings which are free from fear and grief, and to which you have also won a title through services rendered to me. Of what account, in comparison to these, are other enjoyments, including those obtained in heaven, aspirations in regard to which are frustrated by the mere contraction of a brow on the part of the Lord, who possesses infinite power. You have now attained your object through fidelity to me. Therefore enjoy the extensive unearthly pleasures earned through devotion to your wifely duties, and which can be had with difficulty by human beings due to false notions of their royal dignity and so on. I saw other commentaries for that also a little different. When the sage spoke thus, Devahuti felt relieved to discover that he was the master of all yogic powers and an adept in all forms of worship. Her face brightening with a smile and bashful glances, she spoke in a voice choked with modesty and love. Devahuti said, I know it, my lord. All that you have said, O chief of the Brahmanas, is something natural to you, a master of unfailing yogic powers that you are, O great one. Now let the promise you made in the presence of my father about allowing me the contact of your body, but once be redeemed, for it is a rare boon for virtuous wives to have a progeny through a highly venerable husband. Kindly instruct me what arrangements have to be made and what requisites to be got together in the shape of unguents, scents, wearing apparel, and nourishing food, etc., according to the injunctions of the scriptures, the works on erotics, by resorting to which my poor body, emaciated through intense passion, may be rendered fit for union, smitten as I am with darts of love excited by you, and also think of getting a suitable house for the purpose, my lord. a suitable house as an afterthought. Seeking to oblige his beloved spouse, the sage Kardama, O Vidura, exercised his wonderful yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion which could range at will. It was a wonderful structure containing all sorts of jewels, adorned with pillars of precious stones and capable of yielding whatever one desired, and was equipped with every form of wealth, which tended to multiply in course of time instead of diminishing by use. It was provided with supernatural articles of domestic use, was comfortable in all seasons, and decorated with buntings and flags of various colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted the sweet humming of bees, as well as with tapestries of linen, silk, and other fabrics of various kinds. The house looked charming with cushions, beds, fans, and seats, separately arranged in the several stories rising one above the other. Its beauty was enhanced by engravings and other works of art on the walls, etc., here and there, and it was provided with pavements of emerald and coral daisies, or dioceses. Its entrances shone with coral thresholds and had doors of diamond. Its domes of sapphire were crowned with gold pinnacles. With the choicest of rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes, and it was furnished with wonderful canopies and highly valuable festoons of gold. It resounded with the cries of swans and pigeons, which flew up to their likenesses set up there, thinking them to be their own kind. With its pleasure grounds, resting chambers, bedrooms, and inner and outer yards, designed with an eye to the comfort of the occupant, it caused astonishment, as it were, to the sage himself who had produced it. The sage Kardama, who could read the minds of all living beings, perceived that Devahuti did not regard even such a house with a much delighted heart, and said to her of his own accord, "Bathe in the yonder lake, O timid one, and ascend this aerial mansion, having been consecrated by Lord Vishnu himself, who dropped his tears in it. This sacred lake is capable of granting all the desires of human beings who resort to it." Bowing to that command of her lord, the lotus-eyed princess, who had a soiled cloth on her person and wore matted locks on her head, and whose frame was coated with a thick layer of dirt and breasts discolored, dived into the lake which contained the sacred waters of the Saraswati. Inside the lake she saw a house. In a house 1,000 maids, all in the prime of youth and emitting the fragrance of a lotus. Seeing her, the damsels suddenly rose and said to her with joined palms, "We are your maidservants. Tell us what we shall do for you." Sort of reminds me of the passage from the Chandogya Upanishad, where it says, according to the Sankalpa of the Siddha, if he wants to go to the Matri Loka or to the Pitri Loka, then the Pitris or the Matris, that they will all stand up and come forth in order to place that sadhaka in the environment that he desires. So the girls, who showed every respect to the princess, bathed the proud lady with costly oil, perfumed powder, etc. and gave her a pair of new stainless pieces of fine cloth to cover her body with. Superb, most agreeable and brilliant jewels. She's getting a complete makeover. Food containing all good qualities and sweet inebriating drinks, other than spirituous liquor, mentions here. This parenthetical comment from Sridhar. Then in a mirror she beheld the reflection of her person, rid of dirt, adorned with a garland, clad in unsullied robes, decorated with auspicious marks, and made much of by the maids. Her body had not only been washed up to the neck, but bathed from head to foot, and decked with all kinds of ornaments, particularly with a gold ornament about her neck, bangles around her wrists, and tinkling anklets of gold about her ankles. She had a girdle of gold, set with numerous jewels about her hips, and was further adorned with a precious pearl necklace and auspicious materials, such as saffron paste and so on. Her countenance shone with beautiful rows of teeth, charming eyebrows, eyes distinguished by lovely and soft corners, and vying with lotus buds, and dark tresses. The moment she thought of her beloved spouse, the foremost of sages, she found herself, along with those damsels, just where that Lord of created beings was. So instant by the mind, as soon as she thought of him, then immediately she was there. So she was amazed to find herself surrounded by 1,000 maids in the presence of her husband and to witness his yogic power. She's got the man of her dreams. The sage perceived that Devahuti had washed herself clean and shone forth as though she was no longer her former self. She had regained her original beauty and was clad in excellent robes, her charming breasts duly wrapped around, and was waited upon by 1,000 Vidyadhara girls. He conceived a fondness for her and helped her to ascend the aerial mansion. O destroyer of the enemy in the form of passion, though seemingly attached to his beloved consort, and with Vidyadhara damsels ministering to his bodily comfort and gazing on his person, the sage did not lose his glory, mastery over himself, and shone in that aerial mansion as charming as the moon with his consort, the star Rohini. In the midst of the other lunar mansions, in the vault of heavens, causing rows of lilies to open. Waited upon by a bevy of charming damsels and extolled by hosts of siddhas, he reveled in the aerial mansion like Kubera, the god of riches, for long, long years over the valleys of Mount Meru, the pleasure ground of the guardians of the four quarters and the four intermediate points of the compass. Meru is like the North Pole. Valleys which are rendered all the more delightful by cool, gentle, and fragrant breezes that stimulate passion and echo the auspicious sound of the fall of the heavenly stream, the holy Ganga. Similarly, he fondly enjoyed himself with his wife in the heavenly gardens, known by the names of Vaishrambaka, Surasana, Nandana, Pushpabhadra, and Chaitra Ratya, as well as over the Manasarovara lake, coursing through the various spheres as the air on that brilliant and great aerial mansion that could fly at will. Kardama surpassed even the gods coursing through the air. whose movements are restricted to their own particular sphere. What is difficult of achievement for those self-possessed men who have taken refuge in the feet of the Lord, feet that are the source of sacred rivers like the Ganga, and put an end to all the sorrows of mundane life. Having shown to his wife the whole extent of the terrestrial globe, which is full of many wonders because of its arrangement into so many dvipas and varshas, etc., Kardama, the great yogi, returned to his own hermitage in order to delight his spouse Devahuti, the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, who longed for sexual pleasure. The sage divided himself into 9, assumed 9 forms, and enjoyed himself with her for years together, as if it were for an hour only. Sharing with her most handsome lord the excellent and delightful bed in that aerial mansion, she did not notice the passing away of that long period. While the couple who eagerly longed for the pleasures of the sense were thus enjoying themselves by virtue of yogic powers, 100 autumns passed like a brief space of time. Lovingly regarding her as a counterpart of his own self, the enlightened sage who could read the thoughts of all and was also capable of granting their wishes, divided himself into 9 and impregnated her. Immediately afterwards, the said Devahuti bore on the same day 9 female issues who were all charming of every limb and breathed the fragrance of red lotus. Thereafter, when she found her lord about to leave home as a recluse, according to the understanding at the time of wedding, the virtuous lady, who yet longed for a male child, scratched the ground with her foot, radiant with the luster of its gem-like nails, her head bent low, and suppressing her tears, she spoke in slow yet winning accents, with an agitated and aching heart, though wearing a smile on her face. Devahuti said, "Your venerable self has redeemed all the promises made to me, yet be pleased to grant me immunity from fear, since I have taken refuge in you. Your daughters, O holy sages, will have to find a suitable match for themselves, and there must be someone to rid me of sorrow when you have left for the woods. Enough with the time that has so far been spent with me in enjoying the objects of senses, ignoring the Supreme Spirit. Not knowing your transcendental glory, I have loved you while remaining attached to the objects of the senses. Let the affinity I have borne to you nonetheless rid me of all fear. The same love which, when bestowed on the wicked through ignorance, is conducive to rebirth, rids one of all attachment when it is directed towards holy men. The same love which, when bestowed on the wicked through ignorance, is conducive to rebirth, rids one of all attachment when it is directed towards holy men. He whose activity in this world neither tends to religious merit, nor to dispassion, nor to the service of the Lord, whose feet are the source of all sacred places, is verily dead, though living. Indeed, I have been badly deceived by the Lord's Maya, deluding potency, in that I failed to seek liberation from the bondage of mundane life, even after securing you, the bestower of final beatitude." And here ends chapter 23. So I'm going to do chapter 24 tomorrow, and then I'm going to comment a little bit on this whole thing. Sarve, excuse me, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् पूर्णं मदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णम् उदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णम् आदाय पूर्णम् एवावशिष्यते ओम शांति 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 हरि ओम तत्सत् हरि ओम जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे श्याम।